The senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better even than salvation.
Text 33. Jarayatya suya kosham nigirnam analo yatha.
Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat.
Nekatmatam misprayanti kechin matpada sevabiratmadeha ye nyonyato bhagavata prasajya sabhajyante mama purushani.
A pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities.
Text 35. Pashyanti te meruchayanyam vasanta prasana vaktraruna lochanani rupani divyani varapradani sakam vakam prayani vadanti.
O my mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form, with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are all benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me.
Text 36. Tendasyani yavyavera udara vilashaha shikshitava masuktehe Ritatmano rita pranamscha bhaktir anichato me gatim anvin priyunkte.
Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor.
Text 37. Atho vibhitim mama maya vinastam Eshvaryam astangam anupravartam Shriyam bhagavatim vaspriyanti badram Parashyamete snuvate tu loke.
Thus, because he is completely absorbed in thought of me, the devotee does not desire even the highest benediction obtainable in the upper planetary systems, including Satyaloka. He does not desire the 8 material perfections obtained from mystic yoga, nor does he desire to be elevated to the kingdom of God. Yet, even without desiring them, the devotee enjoys, even in this life, all the offered benedictions.
Text 38. Na karhichim mat parasanta rupe nankshanti no me nimishole dilet hetihi yesha maham priya atma sutascha saka guru shurdo devam istam.
The Lord continued, My dear mother, devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences. Because the devotees accept me as their friend, their relative, their son, preceptor, benefactor, and supreme deity, they cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time.
Text 39 to 40. Imam lokam tathevamam atmanam ubhyayanam atmanam anuyecheha yerayaha pashavo graha Visrijya sarvam anyamscha mamevam vishvato mukham bhajyanti anyanya bhaktya tanmrityur atiparaye.
Thus, the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, is unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death.
Text 41. Nanyantra mad bhagavata pradhana purusheshvarat atmana sarva bhutanam bhayam tibram nivartate.
The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls.
Text 42. Madbhayadvati vatoyam suryastapati madbhayat varshatindro dhatyagner mityuscharati madbhayat.
It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me.
Text 43. Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yogena Yoginaha Kshemaya Padam Mulam Me Pravyanshanti Akuto Bhayam.
The yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation, and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter of my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear.
Etavan eva lokesmin pumsham nishreyaso yadaha Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Manomai Arpitam Stiram.
Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life.
That's it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to recite Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Janus Prabhuji, Gita Mataji. Thank you for very nice recitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mataji and Prabhuji, for the beautiful recitations. Thank you very much. So, just looking at the participants list, I think, Prabhuji has just joined. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the wonderful recitation, Mataji and Prabhuji. So nicely recited. I just got the trailing end of it, so do forgive me. Just catching up on my notes for today's talk. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to today's chat talk for 22nd of February, 2026. The verses that we're going to be reading from chapter 3, Status Quo, Canto 3, Status Quo, chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. It's a dialogue between Kapila Dev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his mother, Devotee. And the verses that we're going to read today is 41 and 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritcham Naram Chaiva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya Nashta Shubhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatamutam Shlake Bhakti Bhavati Naistake. Hare Krishna Mataji, Shri Kishore Mataji, will you give me permission to share the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji. Just a slight correction. The verses for discussion today are 33 to 34.
Oh, is it?
Yes, not 41 to 42. That's on the 1st of March.
Okay, sorry, I've put the wrong notes. Okay, I'll have to advance, see what I can do. Let me share the screen. Okay, it's still coming up with a message.
Have you got the sharing rights now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So which verse was it, Mataji?
33 to 34.
Okay. Okay, you just have to ignore some of the tabs at the top because it was preparation for the verses that was supposed to read 41 and 42, but that's for next week, as Mataji corrected me. So 31 to 34.
33 to 34, Prabhuji.
33 to 34. Thank you. Okay, verse 33. Jarayate ashuya kosham nigirna manalo yata. Okay, translation. Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bhakti is in a far higher position than mukti because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a process of his liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bilvamangal Thakur explained the position very nicely. He said, I have unflinching devotion unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Then mukti or liberation serves me as a maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask. For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Bhakti is therefore far better than mukti. With the impersonalist position, the impersonalists undergo severe penances and austerities to attain mukti. But the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and by accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of Godhead. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Dev that bhakti, or devotional service, is Gariyasi, more glorious than Siddhi, liberation. Okay? Let's just recite the Mangalasharan prayers to join in. Amagyana Tamardasya Yana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rapakada Mayam Tadati Swabhutantikam Mandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shiva Shakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopishwara Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. First of all, I'd like to seek the blessings and blessings of my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Swami. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pistaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhakti Swami Tenamane, and to his co-founder Church, Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pistaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tenamane, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pachayane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachya Desatayane. We also kindly seek the blessings of everyone listening. May I speak on the wonderful glories and topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the discussion between Kapila Dev and his mother Devahuti. Whatever I say may be truthful, beneficial, pleasing to the audience as well as to myself. Thank you. So the translation for this verse, Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort. Just as fine the stomach digests that all that we eat. So as you know, we have 5 gross material elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the subtle body is made out of mind, intelligence, and ego. So when a particular body with the 5 elements, when it's actually cremated, the actual body itself, the object that we see, the earth, water, fire, air, ether within the body is actually eliminated. But the subtle body actually carries on from one living entity to another living entity, depending on the circumstances of that particular life that is foregone. But that subtle body is very, it's not, you're not able to see it visually. As it says, it's a subtle body. But once somebody actually asks, my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, they asked the question, which was quite a relevant question, what happens at the time of death if you do actually get liberation? Although the soul will get another body in this next life, the material body gets eliminated. What happens to the subtle body? And his answer was exactly what the translation is in this particular verse. The subtle body is actually dissolves itself, so it eliminates itself. The original constitutional position of the Paramatma, the Super Soul, the Jivatma, has its original connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not contaminated in any way, and is not sort of affected any material sort of desires at all. It is completely free, has all the qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. It has the purity in its original state. The subtle body is completely dissolved away. So here, the example is given just like Bhakti, when you perform Bhakti devotional service, it dissolves that subtle body. It dissolves the mind. As you understand from the Bhagavad Gita, the mind is very restless, as Arjuna tells Arjuna, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, it's more difficult than controlling, or rather, it's more easier to control the wind than it is to control the mind. And Krishna tells him with firm conviction, for one who has controlled the mind is the best of friends. For one who has failed to do so, the mind is his greatest enemy. Why is that? Because every day, every moment, every thoughts of our life, our mind is flickering from one place to another place. Just like you may be watching something and then your mind is wandering from one place to another place to another place. Even when you're reading, say, a spiritual book, if our consciousness isn't sort of focused, isn't sort of got that direction that we want to learn and absorb the actual instructions from the Shastras, then our mind tends to wander away. It's quite natural because in our life we have so many issues, so many paths, so many sort of obstacles, good and bad, that comes into our mind. Could be the weather, simple thing like the weather, or could be thinking about going to work tomorrow, could be like cooking and preparing for their lordships so that you and your family could eat nicely. It's about putting the lordships to rest. It's about even the spiritual aspect, chanting your rounds. Have I completed my rounds? Have I done some reading? Have I done some devotional service? But the more you do this devotional service, the more you absorb yourself, the more the mind is actually controlled. The more you control your mind, unwanted difficulties in your life, it actually becomes very, very negligible. You sort of bypass it and understand that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the friend of the friend of the poor, and he takes care of everything in our lives. Even though we may go through a lot of struggles in our lives, but still the Supreme Lord actually takes care of all our problems. And that's specifically when you actually surrender to him. As the Bhagavad Gita verse says, as all who surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. If you surrender 90%, then of course Krishna gives you whatever you want. If you just want to surrender, but take just the nice things in Krishna consciousness, perhaps just a kirtan, the prasadam, but not maintain your sadhana, not maintaining your chanting your rounds, not wanting to follow the four regulated principles, then certainly, although Krishna will give you that spiritual connection by chanting and taking prasadam, but still the real qualification, the real austerity, the real penance that you go through is by completely surrendering, having full conviction in the Supreme Lord. And then when you have that full conviction, then surely the Supreme Lord gives you abundant devotion in every way possible. So the example given down here is just like when you actually eat certain food within when it's actually digested within our stomach, it's actually the fire that actually absorbs and dissolves that food within our stomach. So similarly, when you perform bhakti, and as we explained in several of these chat classes, there's many forms of bhakti. Does anybody want to give an example of different kinds of bhakti that they perform? Does anybody like reading?
Worshipping of deities and yes, reading as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Good, Jay. Anything else? Any other sort of devotional service activities you can think of?
Book distribution, Prabhuji.
Book distribution, that's very good. As one who actually glorifies me to other people, there's no more devotee more dear to me than he. Yes, book distribution. And we all came to Krishna consciousness in some way or another because if you recall, many of us have been born in Indian traditional families where our parents taught us about, certain beliefs in our God, but we didn't really fully understand who the Supreme Person was. Who was Shiva? Who was Brahma? Who's all these pictures of Durga Devi? It was quite a bit of a puzzle. But when we actually read the Bhagavad Gita, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we actually determine who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, who the demigods are, and what are the positions in relation to the demigods, in relation to Krishna himself. Any other devotional service anybody can think of?
Hearing to lectures?
Listening to lectures, yep. That's Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Shravanam, yes.
Chanting Hare Krishna.
Yep. Kirtanam, chanting. Yep. Anything else?
Shravanam Kirtan. Dasyam.
Smaranam and Dasyam, yes. Remembering the Lord.
Yeah.
Why is it important to remember the Lord? Does anybody know why it's important to remember the Lord? Who is remembering the Lord all the time when he was going through some difficulties?
Prahlad Maharaj?
Yes, Prahlad Maharaj. So sometimes we may not be in a position to get our bead bag or be in a position to chant. Say sometimes you could be at work and certain thing could have happened in a situation. But even if you remember the Lord in your mind, the Supreme Personality of God is dwelling in your heart, is there in the form of consciousness. He knows your past, present, and future. And he reciprocates in every way possible, always remembering the Lord in every way. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, worshiping the Supreme Lord, lotus feet of the Lord, Vandanam, offering prayers, Archanam, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, becoming a friend of the Lord as well. Why is becoming a friend of the Lord very important, do you think? Because ultimately, in the Vaikuntha planets, that supreme relationship you have with the Supreme Lord is based on Dasyam, on friendship. The Supreme Lord, you don't actually see the Supreme Lord as a Supreme Lord, just like the cowherd boys in Vrindavan. They just see him as a wonderful companion. They see him as Krishna, a very naughty, mischievous person, stealing butter, teasing the cows, the gopis, throwing mud at each other, stealing each other's lunch packs. There's a friendship. And just as you remember in your school days, you probably, one of your best memories is during your school time when there was so much fun and happiness, just being with children, playing, swimming, doing sporting activities. You didn't really have any concern or worry about where your food was coming from or where you were going to be sleeping, because your parents always took care of you. Supreme Lord is always taking care of you in every way. So friendship is one of the most important things. When you develop friendship, speaking to the Supreme Lord, when you see the Supreme Lord on the altar, it's not an ordinary statue. It's not made of stone, marble, some sort of material object. He is non-different. His Archa Vigraha form is non-different from the Supreme Lord. Because of recitation of prayers and performance of yajna, invoking that auspiciousness to reside in that form of his, in the replica, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how the Supreme Lord looks like. He is considered to be non-different from the Supreme Lord, just like the holy name, Krishna, Rama, are non-different from the holy name. These are the literal incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when you see the Supreme Lord on the altar, we can't just imagine, oh yes, it's a beautiful decoration, it's a beautiful garland, it's a beautiful, the way the Lord looks. It's very nice, very peaceful, nice smell of incense and so forth. No, actually, the Supreme Lord is actually there. You have to talk to him. You have to offer your prayers to him. You have to admire him, his beauty, his ability to take care of everyone's needs. He's the Supreme Creator of this whole universe, not just the universe, but millions and millions of universes. He's living and residing in the heart of every living entity. So when you see the Supreme Lord on the altar, starting from the lotus feet, you think, wow, allow me to be a flower at your lotus feet. Allow me to, just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, somehow or another I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of birth and death. Place me as an atom at your lotus feet. Would you like to be an atom at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? Would you like to be a flower touched by the lotus feet of the Lord? Would you like to be decorated by the flowers which are arranged by the Supreme Lord? It was actually mentioned in one Bhagavatam class. I remember somebody was asking the question, the flower, the fruits, the vegetables that you offer to the Supreme Lord, ultimately they have a conscious, they have some sort of atma in them as well because they're living. So what happens to them when they are offered to the Supreme Lord? Now, in their next life, because that particular item was offered to the Lord, it gets that rare form of human life. And Srila Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, it mentions, amongst thousands of men who aim for perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So it actually shows you, even amongst thousands of men, they aim for perfection, even if they've attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So we have to develop that level where we can actually surrender into the Supreme Lord. Please, 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 allow me to be an atom at your lotus feet. Allow me to be a flower at your lotus feet. Your smile, which actually evaporates oceans and oceans of tears that's accumulated over many lifetimes. The lotus flute on touching your lotus lips. The flowers decorated your beautiful body, the way you are dressed, the turban, your shark-shaped earrings that decorate and ornament your beautiful body. So in this way, when you actually have a connection with the Supreme Lord, as a friend, as somebody, there's a difference between friendship and also within awe and reverence. Although our level of service is awe and reverence, but at the same time, it should be onto a level where we're actually considering ourselves to be the servant of the Supreme Lord in every way. So when you have awe and reverence, that is sort of relationship that the residents of or inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets have with the Supreme Lord Narayan, because they still worship the Supreme Lord Narayan as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They see him as the Supreme Lord and they actually abide him as their servants. But whereas in the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they're actually playing swiftly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, massaging him, playing playful fights with him, stealing butter, being very mischievous as children would be, because there is no sort of anxiety whatsoever, not only in the Vaikuntha planets, of course, in the Vrindavan planets as well. But the idea is that when you actually perform this bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, allowing any processes or multi-processes to free yourself, and that subtle body gets dissolved at the time of death, and you have your eternal Atma, which becomes in its original position as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord in its original, rather in its original state form, as it was in the heavenly planets. So once again, a lot of people ask, we want to pray to the Supreme Lord because of mukti. Once again, I mentioned this previously. There's 4 types of pious people who actually pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are actually in distress, those who desire wealth, those who are sort of want to search for the absolute truth, and those who are actually searching for, or rather just inquisitive, and those who are searching for the absolute truth. But importantly, all of those are looking for that level of liberation or mukti. But it actually says that when you have liberation, it may not be the most pleasing thing that you may want to do. It may free yourself from this anxiety that we always have to deal with day to day. But beyond that, the process of bhakti actually gives you that mukti feeling within yourself, because whatever you're doing, whatever activities you are performing, you're doing it as a duty for serving the Supreme Lord, to please Srimati Radharani, to please Krishna, to please his devotees. So whether you're cooking, book distribution, data worship, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, serving the Lord's lotus feet, offering one's whole body to the Supreme Lord, whatever way possible, then that level goes beyond mukti itself, because mukti is below bhakti. Bhakti itself is the highest form of devotional love. And when you perform that level of bhakti process, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, Kalonaste, eva gatyanyata. There's no other way, no other way, no other way, no other way in this age of Kali, except for the process of chanting the holy name of the Lord. And that process is very simple. Srila Prabhupada has given this wonderful formula, this speech formula: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when you actually perform by chanting this holy name again and again, at the beginning it may be very, very repetitive. You may not have that inclination. You may not have that desire to chant. You may feel inclined to go to a kirtan because you have different musical instruments. But Srila Prabhupada actually explains that the holy name is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas the instruments that are used to accompany the holy name, like the mridanga, the kartals, the harmonium, whatever instrument that you may use, they're just like accompaniment. They have a secondary nature. They don't really, on its own, it doesn't have the same value as chanting the holy name. So the priority is actually focusing and chanting the holy name of the Lord clearly. And this was because in the early days when Srila Prabhupada first started the movement in New York, many of his followers were musicians because they were very intrigued by this mystical chanting of the Vedic mantras. And they brought along different musical instruments. Some were playing guitar, some were playing some sort of accordion, some was playing a flute, some was playing some drums, cymbals, different kind of instruments. But Prabhupada was very tolerant. He did not disregard anybody at all. He welcomed everybody to bring their musical instruments. But in his purport, it actually explained, although you're bringing this beautiful musical instruments to bring about this devotion of the chanting of the holy name, but the focus is on chanting the holy name of the Lord. So it actually mentions that when you chant the holy name of the Lord, the Supreme Lord himself is dancing on the tip of your tongue. So anybody has any that kind of revelation when they've chanted and chanted and chanted, and they felt very, very absorbed in feeling connected to Krishna. It may be quite confidential or personal, but if you're happy to share it, please do so. Okay, so everyone's feeling very shy. Yes, I understand it is confidential because sometimes when you're chanting the holy name, it's a personal thing. I can't deny it, but there are times when I've actually listened to specific spiritual authorities, Srila Prabhupada, when they're chanting, certain emotions come about. Maybe sentimental in my case, but certainly when I hear them chanting, I think, wow, this is so beautiful. How is it that I'm not able to fully comprehend and connect to the Supreme Lord like these great personalities? What is it, or how many lifetimes do I need to go through to actually feel that revelation, that feeling of connection, that feeling of devotion, love, of just by chanting the holy name? Can I feel that Supreme Personality being non-different from that literal name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna? Krishna being all attractive, Rama meaning the reservoir of all pleasure, Hare referring to the feminine energy of the Supreme Lord, Radharani. So if you can imagine, when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're always addressing Radharani all the time. So here, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times we're reciting Hare, or Radharani's name, and Krishna 4 times, and Rama 4 times. So twice as much we're reciting the name of Srimati Radharani in the form of Hare, which is the energy of the Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada also once again mentions about the importance about eating foodstuff offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As you know, devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of suffering actions because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Those who eat food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat on a sin. And of course, from the verse Patyam Bashvam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakti Priyajati, if one offers me with love and devotion, leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I shall accept. Now, verse 34. Nekata matam es priyanti kechin matpada seva birata madhya yeno anyato bhagavata prasaya slabhya yante mama purushani. Translation: a pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and always engages in the service of my lotus feet, never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Such a beautiful translation. I'll just read it again. Pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service, which is mentioned in different forms of devotional service. What is it that causes one devotee to be attached to that service? One always engages in the service of my lotus feet, never desires to become with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Report by Srila Prabhupada. There are 5 kinds of liberation stated in the scriptures. One is to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to forsake one's individuality and merge to the Supreme Spirit. This is called ekatmatam. A devotee never accepts this kind of liberation. The other 4 liberations are to be promoted to the same planet or God, as God Vaikuntha, to associate personally with the Supreme Lord, to achieve the same opulence as the Lord, and to attain the same bodily features as the Supreme Lord. So these are the 5 kinds of liberation. Pure devotee, as will be explained by Kapila Muni, does not aspire for any of the 5 liberations, especially despises as hellish the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Prabodhananda Saraswati, a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya, said, Kevalyam Narakyate, the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, which is aspired for by the Mayavadis, is considered hellish. That oneness is not for pure devotees. There are many so-called devotees who think that in the conditioned state we may worship the personality of Godhead, but that ultimately there is no personality. They say that since the Absolute Truth is impersonal, one can imagine a personal form of the impersonal Absolute Truth for the time being. But as soon as one becomes liberated, the worship stops. That is the theory put forward by the Mayavad philosophy. Actually, the impersonalists do not merge into the existence of the Supreme Person, but into his personal bodily luster. So this is quite important, actually. Actually, the impersonalists do not merge into the existence of the Supreme Person, so not in the personality of the Supreme Lord, but rather his personal bodily luster, which is called the Brahma Jyoti. Although that Brahma Jyoti is not different from his personal body, that sort of oneness merging into the bodily luster of the personality of Godhead is not accepted by pure devotee, because the devotees engage in great pleasure than the so-called pleasure of merging into his existence. The greatest pleasure is to serve the Lord. Devotees are always thinking about how to serve him. They are always designing ways and means to serve the Supreme Lord, even in the midst of the greatest obstacles of material existence. The Mayavadis accept the description of the Mayavadis accept the description of the pastimes of the Lord as stories. But actually they are not stories, they are historical facts. Pure devotees accept the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord not as stories, but as absolute truth. The words Mama Purushani are significant. Devotees are very much attached to glorifying the activities of the Lord, whereas the Mayavadis could not even think of these activities. According to them, the absolute truth is impersonal, without personal existence. How can there be activity? The personalists take the activities mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the other Vedic literatures as fictitious stories. And therefore, they interpret them most mischievously. They have no idea of personality of Godhead. They necessarily poke their noses into the scripture and interpret it in a deceptive way in order to mislead the innocent public. The activities of Mayavad philosophy are very dangerous to the public. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya warned us never to hear from any Mayavadi about any scripture. They will spoil the entire process, and the person hearing them will never be able to come to the path of devotional service to attain the highest perfection, or will be able to do so only after a very long time. It is clearly stated by Kapila Muni that bhakti activities or activities, devotional service, are transcendental to mukti. This is called Panchama Purushartha. Generally, people engage in the activities of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately they work with an idea they're going to become one with the Supreme Lord, mukti. But bhakti is transcendental to all these activities. The Srimad Bhagavatam therefore begins by stating that all kinds of pretentious religiosity is completely eradicated from the Bhagavatam. Ritualistic activities for economic development and sex gratification, and after frustration and sense gratification, the desire to become with the Supreme Lord are all completely rejected in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is especially meant for the pure devotees who always engage in Krishna consciousness, the activities of the Lord, and always glorify these transcendental activities. Pure devotees worship the transcendental activities of the Lord in Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, as they are narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. The Mayavadi philosophers completely reject them as stories. But actually they are great and worshipable subject matters, and thus are relishable only for devotees. That is the difference between Mayavadi and a pure devotee. So there's quite a lot of information in this particular purport, and I'll try and break it down where feasible. So one of the things that a devotee never accepts is kind of liberation. That liberation, when it first mentions about there's 5 kinds of liberations, one is to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For a devotee's point of view, it's considered to be an offense to consider to become one with the Personality of Godhead. So becoming one with the Personality of Godhead means when they actually merge into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, not the body of the Supreme Lord as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada's purport, but emerge into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. Now, for many times I used to always read these kind of verses on purpose by Srila Prabhupada. I could not really understand why Srila Prabhupada becoming very protective about the devotee's nature and demeaning the Mayavadis, even more so to the atheists. So I asked this question once to somebody, and then they mentioned that at least the atheists, they believe that there is no God. So God can understand. They don't have the intelligence to believe that they are God. So even if they make an offense, they're not really making an offense as such. But of course, when they hurt or harm another living entity, then it is obviously a heinous crime, and karmic reaction will endure eventually to that person. But an atheist, because he doesn't believe in the form of God, he does not have anything to do with the Lord. Whereas somebody who's a Mayavadi or an impersonalist, they believe in the Supreme Lord, but they see that the Supreme Lord is just basically an effulgence, an impersonal feature of the Lord. And that is very important for devotees of the Lord to understand. If we went to the temple room and there was a beautiful, beautiful golden throne, altar, beautifully decorated, flowers, ornaments, plants, all sorts of different items, but there's nothing on the altar whatsoever. There's no Radha Krishna. It's just a void. It's just an empty space. How would your thoughts be? How would your imagination be? How would you worship that something which is not there at all? How would you actually understand that feeling, that relationship? Just like you as an individual, you're a human person. You have a relationship with your husband, your wife, your children, your colleagues, your neighbors, your devoted friends, your non-devoted friends. There's always a relationship. You interact with each other with hands, with eyes, with mouth, all the five senses that you have: touch, taste, smell, sight, hear. But why can you not do that with the Supreme Lord? The Supreme Lord is a person. He is the absolute truth. The absolute truth is divided into three personalities. The first being Bhagavan, the second being the Paramatma, the third being the Brahman. Those who are at the lowest level of intelligence see the Brahman as the Supreme Lord. They just, in comparison, the Brahman is compared to the rays of the sun itself, the rays that shine, that give the heat of the sun. The followers of the Mayavadis, or the Mayavadi followers, they don't see what's beyond the rays. They don't see beyond the sun at all, the light of the sun. They just see the light and giving them energy, giving them heat, and so forth. But the Paramatma, they see the globe, the sun, the object. They see the sun rays, the light is emitting from the globe of the sun itself. That's at the second level. When they see the Paramatma, they also see the Paramatma in every living entities as well, in every body. And the highest level is the highest level of the absolute truth, is when one actually realizes the Bhagavan position. The Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavan has unlimited qualities. It's as many stars you can calculate in the sun, in the atmosphere, in the cosmic universe. That's how many qualities that the Supreme Lord has. It's almost unimaginable. But he has 6 particular main qualities. That's all attractive: fame, beauty, renunciation, wisdom, strength. So when you have that particular 6 qualities to its fullness, is considered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An individual may have one quality to a certain level, but that's always on a temporary level. Somebody may be the most beautiful person, but that's only your temporary level. Eventually comes to old age and then death. Somebody may have more riches than anybody else in the world. Elon Musk has been awarded some trillions of pounds for his position in his companies. I mean, that's so much money. I mean, even if it had 0.001%, it's enough to make us happy. But of course, this is all Krishna's Lakshmi. He may be the richest person now, but sooner or later, somebody else will become more richer than him. So nobody other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, has ultimate opulence, ultimate strength, ultimate fame, ultimate beauty, wisdom, renunciation, all these wonderful, beautiful qualities. The other kind of liberation mentions quickly, the full liberation is also promoting to the same planet as the Supreme Lord, in this case Vaikuntha. Although we mentioned the Vrindavan planets, that is possible to be promoted into that particular position and Vrindavan Palace. But in this case, most of these muktis are based on personal desires. It's not based on unmotivated, unconditional desires. This is based on some personal achievement for themselves that they want to achieve by performing austerities and penance. The other kind of liberation is associating personally with the Supreme Lord, and then also to have the same opulence as the Lord, and also to attain the same bodily features as the Supreme Lord, like the Narayan features of the Supreme Lord. So further along, it mentions about the great devotee Lord Chaitanya. He's saying the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, which is aspired for by the mind, is considered hellish. So somebody may say, well, how is it possible that the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, took sannyas or took diksha, became a disciple of Mayavadi, Ishwara Puri? So the whole idea is that although Ishwara Puri was a Mayavadi, the whole objective was that the Supreme Lord is not conditioned by any sort of rules or regulations. He's beyond any sort of conditioning, any regulations. Is able to do whatever he wants to. But for the sake of humanity, for the sake of the disciplic succession, he took on that role to absorb whatever reaction he may have. But of course, the Supreme Lord gets no reaction whatsoever. So at least from that point onwards, then there was that level of Gaudiya Vaishnavism taking place by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, I'm not sure exactly the story, whether it was in Varanasi or somewhere else, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, and it was surrounded by thousands and thousands of Mayavadis that were very intrigued to see this beautiful, wonderful personality. Who are you? Where have you come from? Please explain yourself, who you are. And then when he was explaining who he was and his philosophy, the Mayavadis somehow now became so attracted to him, this personality, and they all renounced their sort of, how would you feel it, their doctrine of Mayavadism, personalism, or rather impersonalism, sorry, and they became followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was looking after Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, Maharani, and Lord Baladev in Jagannath Puri, when he saw this sannyasi who had fainted, when he tried to explain about Vedanta for so many days, he explained in so many ways to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't reply. Then eventually Sarvabhauma was getting a bit slightly irritated, frustrated. Have you not learned anything? What is it, that you don't understand? But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, yes, whatever you said, I do not fully understand what you're saying. So he explained the same philosophy in so many numerous ways. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so amazed, even though he was a scholar, well-renowned, a recognized scholar within the whole of Orissa, Jagannath Puri. And in this night, he was observing his thoughts, his conversations with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And eventually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that beautiful Sadbhuja form, which you see the beautiful painting at the Hare Krishna temple, Bhaktivedanta Manor, of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu holding the sannyas danda, and the pot on the other hand, two arms replicating Krishna holding the flute, and two arms replicating Lord Ramachandra holding the bow and arrow, and the same form is also in the chapel garden, if you ever get a chance to go there when the weather's warmer. There are some other points as well further on, but because of time, I'll stop there. The main point is that Kapila Muni is mentioning about the bhakti activities is far beyond bhakti. Here, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the different forms of Sanatana, Artha, Karma, Moksha, Mukti, religion, economic development, sense gratification. Although we are engaged in these activities, but it's beyond that, it's actually the level of bhakti. These may be on a more sort of independent or personal way we want to perform activities of religion, economic development for karmic sort of prosperity, sense gratification, karma for personal enjoyment. Although we may want to achieve these kind of process of liberations or muktis by any of these processes, the highest level is through the form of bhakti, transcendental to any of these activities. Artha Kama Dharma Moksha. I hope that's clear. Please forgive me for not fully explaining everything. I have to admit, the verses that I read today were the verses I wrote up in my books today. So at least I have my notes prepared for next week. In the meantime, if there's any questions, comments, corrections, or anything anybody wants to add on, please do so before I pass out to Shuji Kishore Mataji. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And please carry on with your devotional activities, chanting the holy name of the Lord, as we mentioned in the previous verse of this Bhagavatam, and doing different kinds of devotional service in the form of book distribution, chanting, reading, worshiping the Supreme Lord, offering prayers, and remembering, of course, is so important. Whatever difficulties, both happiness and unwanted difficulties that come into your mind, think of the Supreme Lord. He will always find a way to get out of those difficulties under all circumstances. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. I'll pass out to Shuji Kishore Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class as always. Very nicely explained. Thank you. So, dear devotees, today we have dear Pavani and Inakshi singing a beautiful bhajan called Vrindavan Ramya Sthana. So, Pavani and Inakshi, when you're ready, let me share the lyrics of the bhajan on screen, and then you can start, okay?
Sure,
Can you see the verses on the screen?
Not yet, but we
Okay.
can open it on our device.
That's okay. I'll just click on the share button. Okay, here we are. Can you see the words now?
Yeah.
So when you're ready, please start. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Beautiful Vrindavan is filled with Chintamani gems and many jeweled palaces and temples. Many regal swans play in the waters of the Yamuna, and in those waters a splendid golden lotus flower grows. In the middle of that lotus is a golden place surrounded by 8 petals. On these 8 petals, the eight principal gopis reside, and in the center, Lord Shama Sundar and beautiful Srimati Radharani sit on the jeweled throne. The great beauty of the divine couple and their charming joking and laughter appears to be constantly showering nectar everywhere. Narottam Das says, I pray that these blissful, eternal, transcendental pastimes of the divine couple may be always manifest in my heart. Vrindavana Ramya Sthana Divya Chitta Mani Dhama Ratana Mandira Manohara Vrindavana Ramya Sthana Divya Chitta Mani Dhama Ratana Mandira Manohara Avrita Kalindini Rajahamsa Kili Kare Ahe Shobhe Kanaka Kamala Avrita Kalindini Rajahamsa Kili Kore Ahe Shobhe Kanaka Kamala Madhe Mapita Ashtadale Veshtita Ashtadale Pradhana Naika Madhe Mapita Ashtadale Veshtita Ashtadale Pradhana Naika Madhe Ratnasane Kosiya Chendui Jane Shama Sange Sundari Radhika Tara Madhe Ratna Sane Hosiya Chendui Jane Shama Sange Sundari Radhika Orupala Vanyarasi Amiya Poriche Kasi Hasya Pari Hasa Samba Shane Narottama Dase Koe Nityalila Sukhamoe Sadai Spuruka Moramane Narottama Dasa Koe Nityalila Sukhamoe Sadai Spuruka Moramane. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much, Pavani and Inakshi. Very well sung. Thank
you,
you.
Mataji.
So, Prabhuji, are you still there with us? Okay. So, would anyone have any reflections or any realizations before we close the session? Or any questions for Prabhuji regarding the class? Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So shall we end the class now?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And certainly wishing you all a wonderful spiritual week next week and carry on with your devotional service, because ultimately the next verse that we're going to read next week is actually quite a very, it all affects all of us in our lives. We're all born, and those who take a birth is sure to die. And what do we want to do at the time of death? We just want to remember Krishna. And the only way to remember Krishna is by always performing devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, as I mentioned earlier on, remembering the Supreme Lord, was chanting and hearing the Supreme Lord's name. Hare Krishna, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Kalpatarubhyascha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa
sindhubhya
sindhubhya
cha
patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
It was
Krishna,
a wonderful
everyone.
class, and